everyone. Welcome to another episode of the ACTO podcast. This time, on this third season, we decided to talk with tech communities in Portugal. And today, the topic will be user experience. So, we are going to talk with two guests, Bruno Figueiredo and Marta Fernandez. They both belong to UX communities. Bruno is from UX LX and Marta from Porto UX. So welcome you both to this podcast. For people that are watching this, so probably I don't know if they know you or not, but maybe we can start from that, and you could make an introduction about yourselves. Maybe Marta can go first,
Okay.
and then Bruno.
So thank you for the invite. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Marta. I'm a UX designer as UX for more than 15 years. I started as something called graphic user interface. Was my role, and I started working in product, and I know I knew in that time that okay, that's what I want to do, and I decided to found to with another colleague to found this community Porto UX because was a lack of understanding of what is UX that I noticed in 2017. I think was the year that we founded the community. And I was the only UX designer in the company that I work at that time. So I felt the need to speak with someone with the same language. So it was something more selfish, but it works. So we start to make some meetups. So we start with meetup in another company. So it was really a great enlarge the connections of UX and to spread the words of the UX in Porto was really a pleasure. Well, it was really a pleasure.
How about you, Bruno?
Okay, so thank you so much for inviting me. So speaking about how I ended up in UX communities, I started. My education is in architecture, but I started working in the field of web design about 27 years ago. I was one of the very first professional web designers in Portugal working in companies at the time. And then I evolved into UX related fields. It wasn't called UX back then, it was usability. And I was involved in one of the first communities around that, which was around a website called usabilidade.com. It was a forum, and that forum evolved into an association, the Portuguese Usability Professionals Association, that we founded in 2005, and I was one of the first presidents. And as president, I organized a few community events. We called it Seminário de Usabilidade back then. And then I went away for a few years to work in the UK. I was involved in the creation of the IXDA community in London. And then when I got back, I was inspired by all of that, and I decided to create UXLX, which is meant to be an annual event around UX. And I thought that it would be interesting for both the national community and the international community to bring people from all over the world and share experiences and learn over the course of a few days.
No, for sure, fantastic. And tell us one thing. So, for your intros, we already heard kind of graphic user interface, usability, user experience. And even looking a little bit to Marta's comment about, look, back in 2017, I really felt the need to get people together to discuss UX because people really didn't understand what UX was back then. So I have here pretty much it's a twofold serve question. So the first one is, do we still today see a lot of people confusing UI with UX? Because they tend to be one next to the other, right? Oh, UI UX. And so I don't know if people really understand the difference there. And so definitely want to pick your brain on that, and also understanding, so let's say throughout these years, how that evolution, of understanding what UX is looks like. So maybe you, Bruno, could start a little bit with kind of, letting us know like the big difference, between UI and UX. I think that would be very important.
Well, my perception stems from interacting with clients and teams of clients, and also with the community at the event that we organize. So I would say that the market today for UX is more mature than a few years, but it's still very much connected to UI. And what I mean is even in higher education in Portugal, there's not a large focus on UX yet. Most of the courses still have multimedia in the name, which is something that we don't use for 15 years. So I would say that it's still very much connected to that. We have very good visual designers in Portugal, UI designers. UX, even though it's a lot of people carry that in their role these days, the reality is that they don't delve that much into UX, and they're more UI designers than anything, because they lack a bit of the experience and also the opportunity to work in research. But that's rapidly changing, and we're seeing more and more people carrying roles with research in their names. So I hope the landscape changes in the forthcoming years.
For sure. How about you, Marta?
Yeah, I think it's a little different now since 2017. And for me, the switch was very smooth, but I know that for most of the people, it's not so smooth as we wanted, because my switch was okay. I'm doing this because I'm designer as Bruno for more than 25 years. So I start already also with web design, and the switch was okay. Now we need to focus on the people, on the person will use this. And for me was that difference. And what I noticed here at Critical, for example, Critical TechWorks, we are already more than 100 UX designers, and I'm also do the recruitment. And the difficult that we have is some only do UX and some only do UI. And for us, UX is an umbrella that has everything, and we need someone who does everything, because we believe that the knowledge that we get, because the business is very complex, the knowledge that we get in the beginning needs to go through the rest of the project, and that's the only reason. So it's better because we already have 100 people in one only company, but yes, we still have a long way to go through. To understand to the stakeholders and to the rest of the other communities, and the other role is not someone who put the button in the right place or is in the right color, but is more than that. And yes, and sometimes with stakeholders we need to do some kind of evangelize it and
education.
yeah, but it's better. But I'm an optimist. I believe that we are going in the right place, in the right path.
Yeah, you mentioned there that at some point you had to focus on people, so the user that was actually using the product. I wonder if there is any correlation here with the evolution of the user experience with the product management as well. Because to use a product, you also need to think about how the product should evolve and having some product management behind. And at some time, the product management area also appeared with the boom of startups and many products appearing there. Do you see any correlation with this world about building a product and then caring about UX? Or do you think it's the other way around? UX appear first and then product management, it's needed.
That's
How do you relate?
tricky question. I believe that the startups that's the sense of thinking in a project, because they need to think in a product and put in the market very fast. So, and to solve the right problem to the right people, giving the right solution for the right problem for the right people. And thanks to that, it helps to speed up a little about thinking about what is a product. But I said it's a tricky answer also, because I think we need to work together, product management and UX, very close. And again, and I will give a lot of examples in what we do at Critical Tech Works. We have a product owner that we are a kind of product people. We think together the product. So there's not a UX or not a product owner. We think the product together, and we build the product vision also together. So yes, it's correlated, but I don't want to believe that one comes first from
The
another. Okay, we need to work together.
Yeah.
So the focus is always the same. Give the right solution for the right problem, right? Just that.
But did we see like an increase in the UX capabilities in Portugal with the rising of startups? You know, like even I don't know, Bruno, if you can shed some light on the sort of attendance that you have on UXLX. You know, like the annual conference. Do we see that the number of participants increase? Do you think that UX becomes a more popular and well-known sort of topic and a more needed expertise? Would you say, or you don't observe that at all?
Well, it's difficult to assess that because the event has always stayed the same size, and it happens that we don't make any effort towards it specifically, but the amount of Portuguese attendees in the event is almost always stable. It's about between 20 and 25% of the attendees. So that never change. What we see is a change in the makeup of attendees. And when we started, they were mostly UX designers. Now they're UX designers and UX researchers and some other roles in between. So the research roles, and there's more people in leadership roles than before. I would say that that's the main change.
And maybe I think that this is a perfect segue for something that I have here. That is UX just for designers, or do you think that engineers, product people, enablement support, so all the functions that are required, to maintain something in production, especially when we think about a SaaS product, is it true that it's just for designers, or do you think that we all need to be thinking much more of experience?
Default answer is it depends.
I love it. So, I want to know more.
We have a lot of architects. They are changing the career path. We also had engineers. We have different paths coming to UX, but they need to think right the product. So is our requirement to come to Critical to UX designer. But we also had the need to they need to understand what is design and what are the fundamentals, because we design also. It's like end-to-end UX designer. We go to all the stakes of the umbrella. So for us, it is not right or wrong, is our way to work. For us, they need to know how to design something and need to know the fundamentals. We created last year a UX academy inside CTW, and because we are training the people who want to change the career, and yes, we have fundamentals of design and all the steps that we need to go through to develop something in UX. So for me, yes, we need to know how to design.
I would say that in that sense, I've met people from all sorts of different backgrounds, physicists and people coming from all over the the spectrum of knowledge into UX, and I believe they can all contribute in some sense, because some people are better at organizing information systems, and the UX is not only visual. But I would say that people who are directly involved in the laying out screens, even they might be only involved in early stage, low fidelity ones, they need to know something about design. Otherwise, it's very difficult for them to have a good output, in my perspective. But I believe that anyone can be involved in UX, but in different stages of the process.
Yeah, agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, and if you think about, so in our industry we can find so many products and so many different products, and sometimes you look to the user experience, sometimes like an enhancement or a perk or something extra. I believe that some people might look at that in that way, and maybe we associate with the apples of this life that, whoa, this is so everything is so beautiful. Do you agree? How can we change these mindsets? And do you believe there are still many products or several companies that still don't invest much on this area? And what do you think it makes the trigger for the companies to start thinking more about the importance of having this UX area?
Well, I think that UX is very much tied in, maybe in the area of product management that you mentioned, with startups. And for startups, it's always nice to have UX at the forefront of it. But I believe that in the very early stages, they just want to have something that kind of works and shows their value to the clients, and the UX might be a concern that they only have a little later on, when they have more people in the team that can focus on that. So I would say that it's nice to have it up front, but in the beginning, it's more important to have something that works or solves the problem.
Interesting.
But when they ask for a UX, sometimes is a little late. Not late, but yeah, if they start earlier, maybe they will be more succeed sometimes.
Yes, definitely. But sometimes, at least from my experience, we work with a lot of startups. In the beginning, even though some startups bring us along, there's a lot of mistakes and things still being learned about the product market fit, that even though we might work on it in the beginning, a lot of it is scrapped away, and the next iteration, version 2, is the one that we can really focus our core set at
the big idea, and the big idea to in the market as soon as possible. The rush of put the idea in the market.
I love that way of thinking, especially because I from my observation, sometimes I think it's kind of easy to fall into the trap of thinking of UX as kind of a second-class citizen, just like Bruno say. What is important is that it needs to work, and we need to find the product fit. But now, after hearing a little bit more about it, actually, probably it's about the investment, right? Like when we are still trying to understand if people really want to use the product, regardless of its usability, maybe it's not super relevant to invest heavily in an experience when we don't even know if people need the product at all, right? And so when we actually get to the point to say, okay, we have a market fit, there is a need for this thing that we are producing. How can we now make it kind of more pleasant, more joyful to use, more compelling? No, absolutely, super interesting. I didn't think like that before. Really, really insightful.
It's
one thing.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would say that it's more or less like product development, like Scrum methodology. So we need to put the MVP, and for UX is more or less the same. So maybe we start little and go through the feedback that we receive from the users, and let's see how can we improve, and how can this grow. I think this very correlated, at least for me. I work in product, for several years, and it's difficult for me to split the both things.
I would say that it's more important to focus on research at the early stages and not that much on the UI side and actual aspects of the product than anything else. I was a mentor at Startup Lisboa for a couple of years, and I mentored some startups there. And sometimes they came to me and they said, "Oh, we already done some research about our product. We asked a few people around if they were interested in our product, and they said yes." So that's a glaring flaw in research. But so I would say that they need more help and hand-holding in that stage than focusing on the intricacies of the product itself.
Now I'm curious about something else, because now that we are talking about the product development side, sometimes we might see UXers. I'll use the word fighting, but it's not fighting, but with software developers, because at some point you might face some limitations, and where UX there is no limits. We can we can get anything that we want. Okay, Marta is already. I think I'm
challenging
going to learn.
that.
I'm going to learn with this. But where can we find those limits, and how can we manage the expectations and align the both sides? Find the balance between what's possible in product development and what we want with the good UX.
We have limits on UX, and limits is in the user hands. So our limit is when the experience for the user is no longer a need. So Donovan says the experience starts with a need, and only I don't know what the right sentence, but something, it starts with a need, and only when the user forgets it, the experience, that's when it's over. So that's our limit. So we need to put the experiences more long in time as we can. But it's a limit for the developers. It's a question of time and price, so money. So everything is possible also in development, as so possible as UX is always what I say to my team. Everything is possible. It's a question of put to balance the benefit and the cost. Okay, sometimes and let's do it in that way. Or let's do it in your way because it's easier and costs less than my solution. But let's see what the user says. And product goes in that way, and we'll see. And sometimes I agree, and sometimes I need to do some rework. But it is what it is. It's product development. It's like that. So, but yes, I believe that we have limits in both. It's a question of balance.
Yeah, I think you're right. There are limits. I see them as constraints, and to be fair, the projects that I were involved with that had the largest constraints were the most rewarding for me, because it's always easy if you have unlimited resources and you can do pretty much anything. But when you're working with small devices with small screens, not large amounts of memory to work with, those things really help you spark creativity. But I believe that it's also necessary, at least for a good UX designer, to have at least a basic understanding of how feasible the things they propose are, or talk with developers and then see what are the limits, and they both can work together in trying to surpass them. So a good dialogue between both is always good for the product in the end.
One thing that is important is the way that we communicate with each other, because we are all pieces of the same project, so we are all important there. There's no
Of course.
UX is no more important than the development. So we need to fit and to communicate well, and yes, and the things work. Wasn't one of the things that we have most in the community Porto UX when we get together, was the question that always come, because we did in the IT companies, and always that question was one of the always come. How do you work with the development team?
Yeah. No, for sure, for sure. And I'm maybe shifting to, and taking a look to UXLX, conference. I think it's fair to say, that the conference is always full, but I think that you sold out the tickets, early before the event starts. How hard was it to put the conference, on the global map? Because I think that if my memory doesn't play tricks on me, Bruno, you told us that only 25% of the attendees are from Portugal. So 75% are from abroad, which this is a lot, right? And I think that we went through a stage, that everyone was coming to Portugal because of surf, and custard tarts. And now people actually come to Portugal because of user experience, right? In the conference, was it challenging, to bring this sort of kind of, of highlights to the conference? Was it something that just really kind of happened in a very spontaneous way? How did it go?
Well, at the beginning, it helped that I was because of belonging to the Portuguese Association. We have a lot of ties with other associations in the European landscape, so it helped with my connections in there to help spread the word through there initially. But since then, it's something that is known. We haven't invested in ads for a lot of years already. Just people just find out about it and purchase tickets. So we don't do any marketing, if you will, paid marketing.
No, of course. So is it more word of mouth? Or wow?
Yeah. I think it's a lot of word of mouth, and we have people coming from 40 different countries. So there's not like a huge representation of each country, but there's always like 10 people from one country, 10 people from another country, and all of them mixing to make the 500 that the event holds.
Oh, interesting. That's fascinating. And what about the meetup? So we spoke about conferences, and seems like people are opting in for conferences, like maybe just before like COVID, I'm risking to say. Regarding meetups, I think that it changed a little bit, right? Like I'm running the CTO Portugal community. Before that, on my previous life, I was running a community called Full Stack. And before COVID, I think that in a good day we could have 30, maybe 40 people talking about technology, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. with a nice coffee break and so on and so forth. Pretty much, like the same old, same old. I'm under the impression that after the pandemic, with new habits and people, moving to the outskirts, having maybe a different sort of mental availability to attend meetups, that things, like, at least I have the impression that changed a little bit. I would like to understand, Marta, did Porto UX suffered, from all this kind of, post-COVID life, or do you see that you're back like 2019, everything is working just fine for your community?
I think it will be difficult to go back to the way and the model that we had in 2000 till 2019. So Porto UX is more in a pause now. We did a lot remotely in the first phase of COVID. The second was hard because people are tired. So they don't want to spend more time in front of the computer. The people who organize it also don't have enough energy to do it. And we spend all 2022 always saying that we need to reactivate the community, and the people need to feel that they want to be together, they want to discuss things together, but it never happens. So I think is that happens in several areas. I really felt that. So I think now we are like hangover now of COVID, and we are now recovery of that. We want to do presential things, yes, and we want to do it this year. Maybe not every month how we did in the past, but something a little bigger, like the designathon that we did in 2018 or 19. I don't know. Maybe 2 moments in the year with something bigger. That I think in that way comes the people come more than every month or every 2 months. I don't know. People need a break between the work and go home for dinner. But I don't know if everyone is already prepared for that.
Interesting.
At least in Porto. I need a break before I go home, but I'm going to the gym. So it's my break.
Yeah.
So okay, I break the work hours to enter in my family hours. It's my time. And I think that people will need it, and UX will need it, but I think we are so used to have a computer in front of us and being connected to everywhere. It was already in the past, yes, but now it's something that comes to stay. So let's see.
Interesting. And maybe a
Did you
full
felt
day
the same thing, Bruno?
conference. No, but I was going to ask Bruno, and maybe like a full day conference, maybe people have a different mindset, right? Because it's not that kind of, okay, I spent my entire day working and now I'm going to have something extra. People, let's say,
Yeah.
arrive at 9 or 10 a.m., like for a full day of learning, of sharing, of connecting. Maybe people have some sort of kind of, different disposition. Is that how you see it, Bruno?
Yeah, I see these events as a little different. So Marta runs what we call a community event. Is mainly led by the community with contributions from it. Our event is curated, and the companies usually pay for their employees to attend. So it's more of an opportunity to do the annual training for them rather than just a meetup. The fact that it's in Lisbon and it's in a nice setting, usually warmer than the places they come from. It's a nice perk, but the content is mainly what drives the people here and learn, not only sharing. Community events are more for sharing, I think.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned that companies pay for their employees to learn more about UX, and Marta also mentioned that they are building inside her company, they are building an academy also to prepare people. I wonder, how do you see the UX talent in Portugal? Do you see that everyone, there are more people in UX that came from a career shift? There are now more people right from the beginning of their careers already choosing an UX path. How do you see?
I believe that it's the second one now. It used to be the other way around, but I think there's more people coming straight from college, right into UX. And my company experience, we're a consultancy, but we also were one. I believe the first company in Portugal to offer UX training, professional UX training. So we do a lot of the training as well, and we've sensed that shift in the past few years. So in the beginning, it was people, I want to get into UX and I need to know the groundworks. And lately is more focused it's not as generalistic. People want specific things, and even the training that we provide to companies has been focusing towards there. It's more specialized.
Marta wants to add anything.
No, I agree. I agree with Bruno. The second one, more people are more, Portugal doesn't have any kind of training or high school training, university training as UX, but people are more oriented for that. And as Bruno said in the beginning, what we have is something like multimedia or something. But people are more oriented, and when they get out of the universities, they go for to or at least to try to go to that path. So yes, the second one, but we still have some shifts, and we noticed that in the recruitment we have a lot of shifts. But
Well, you both already have a big journey in this UX world. I wonder if you could also share some tips for our listeners that wants to embrace this UX world as well. Do you have any for someone that is starting their career, but also for someone that wants to shift?
it's very different. At least what I felt is very different, because we also need to do that shift during the years. So I was a graphic designer, web designer, graphic user interface. So a lot of UI, now UX, now only. But I'm designer. Okay, so I do digital products. So I'm digital product designer. The advice that I be resilient. So go get it, go get the things done. So everything a mindset of solving problems, solving the right problems. I think that's beginning. The rest comes
after.
I think that for people coming into the field, they might be enticed with a lot of offerings that in training that say, oh, you just need to spend a weekend with us and you'll be a UX designer. It's not actually true. So it's more complex than that. It's good to open your eyes to the breadth of possibilities that you have, but I think I would say that after an effort like that, you should pick one area that you feel that it's more interesting, research or UI or whatever, and then focus on that with more specialized training if you really want to go into it. You can't. I don't think you can be a unicorn from zero and become one in a few months. It takes years to get there. So I would say that only looking for general training is not the only way. You should do that and then try to focus on more specialized areas of your preference.
in recruitment. I have some funny examples, and really I really value that. One girl that comes to us without any kind of experience, she gets out of the university. It's not a UX course, and she doesn't have, of course, portfolio. And what she did was amazing. She has a huge portfolio, and what she did was, so I found these problems when I'm using this application, and I try to solve it and put in my portfolio. And we closed the interview in less than 1 hour, with the decision of hired, of course, because she has the will. Of course, she has the path and the knowledge, but she has the will of do something or solve problems, and in the right way, in the right problems. So that's the major advice.
Cool story. Well, and for your communities now, more focus on that. Looking to the future, what are your plans? And now that we are in a new year as well, do you have any goals for your communities and that you are also going to fight for?
My
Well,
my goal
oh,
is to giving life to again to Porto UX. Yes, to dynamize a little more.
for us, it's more maybe trying to extend the engagement from just one interaction per year and try to engage a little bit more with our community year long. So we're looking into that.
Interesting. So maybe people will see some news from UXLX coming soon. Very well, Bruno, Marta. It's been fantastic to be talking with both of you. We are pretty much at the end of the show, and this season we decided that we should end the show by asking both of you two questions, or one question and one ask. Let's put it that way. So the first question that we have for you is, do you have any favorite quote or something that definitely inspired you right now or in some time in your career that definitely you hold it dear to the heart that you could share with us? I don't know who wants to go first. Maybe you, Bruno.
Well, okay. So one of my favorite quotes is about the balance in achieving a good work, a good piece of work, and it's a quote by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, and it's like perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. And I always mention this to our employees when they come work with us. It's striking a balance. Sometimes we're trying to make more and more things, and sometimes it's better to think about what can I remove that doesn't hurt the experience or even enhances it. So decide what to remove rather than what to add.
Less is more. Yeah. Marta.
I don't have a quote or wrong. I have a lot of quotes, but it's more a kind of mindset. Everything has two ways to see the things. So it's a question of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my mindset. Look at the things in both perspectives. And I have a joke about it. So the life is about paddings and alignments.
Okay.
Okay.
With everything that it means.
Nice quotes. I'm going to take note about those. Well, my second, our second question, and actually it's for you to make a question, but to each other. So, Bruno, you can ask something about to Marta, something that you don't know about her, or anything that you would like to ask, and Marta, then you can ask Bruno.
Okay. So, Marta, my question is, the landscape where UX lives is ever evolving, and I would like to ask you, what do you think are the challenges ahead for UXers in the next 5 years, technologically wise? It's not only about UI now; it's a bit more than that. Where do you think it will lead us?
Is the absence of interface. What it means. I don't know if we can consider an obstacle, but is the next step. And I will focus again in my reality with autonomous car and voice control. And so the absence of interface will be our next challenge as UX designers. So it's not a service, or it's not only about the service, because the service doesn't have or doesn't need to have an interface, but it's about the experience without an interface. How can we deal with that? At least for me, it's my perspective, is the next challenge.
Interfaceless. It will be the next term.
Yeah. Because we
And
don't
what about
the autonomous cars and the voice controls, so it's not the interface, it's more the interaction also. So we don't have the same interaction, so everything that involves with that. My question for Bruno is more about UX LX. So you never thought to transform UX LX in like a kind of UX summit and spread for several places in the country, for example, like Porto?
Well, yes, I've thought about it, but also it feels like there's a natural constraint. If you look at the conferences worldwide, UX conferences, they're all roughly the same size. And even though we sell out the event more and more in advance, when we sell out, we don't see like a huge demand to expand it further. So we've embraced it as is. But it might be that we can work together maybe in the future and do something in Porto. Who knows?
It's more like 1 year in the one place and 1 year in another, and another.
Marta, Bruno mentioned that he is thinking about twice a year, right, with the community. So there
no,
you go.
not twice. I mean, engage with the community, maybe with smaller things.
Do more things, not
but
twice.
Doing an event like this is a huge undertaking, and there's people involved in it almost exclusively. It takes a lot of effort, even though it's like 4 days. It takes a lot of effort to prepare everything.
I imagine to be flawless, of course. Very well, fantastic, Bruno, Marta. Thank you so much. It was a great show. We've learned a little bit about yourself, about the communities, about user experience, about how the Portuguese landscape, and so I think it was very, very informative for sure. So thank you a lot, and for everyone that is watching us on the internet, thank you for being with us, and see you on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you for having me.
Bye. Thank you.
All right.